Welcome back, everyone.
And we're back.
I am so excited to have today singer, songwriter, and sinister pop performance artist ONICKS.
Hey.
Hello, how are you?
Sinister
Artist.
I love that title.
I love it.
Hot.
It is so hot. It really is. Like, we all had the same reaction. Honestly, when we were looking, it was like, I love their name. Like, it's so cool. Like, I love it.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today here on Pride the Podcast.
Thank
So
you for
what's
having me.
up? Where are you at?
Where are you at on it?
What's the tea?
I find myself right now in my studio room. So I built out of it's basically like an office space that I turned into this, I don't know, this sanctuary for myself. So I'm very ADHD. So I got a table and I painted it with dry erase paint so I can draw all over it.
Cute.
I've got all my cover art in this room. I painted the walls in the color of money.
I know that's right.
Okay.
And that's what we got going on in here in Los Angeles.
Okay, you're in LA.
great.
You're in
La La
LA.
Land.
Work.
I'm
I'm excited. ONICKS, are you going to be participating or doing anything with LA Pride this year?
We are working on it. My schedule this year is a bit insane, so I'm going to try my best to be there. I would love to perform. Last year I did the one that was on Hollywood Boulevard, which was wild.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 5 blocks of just screaming fans and whatnot, which was amazing. And then, I would love to. I'm always involved with prides every year.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, the last Pride we went to before the pandemic, it was still in West Hollywood at that time, and I know that they separated prides in LA. Like, there's 2 different prides now.
What's your thought?
There's three. There's three.
There's 3.
DTLA. I performed at
yeah.
DTLA Proud, Hollywood. Now there's Venice, and then there's West Hollywood. So I do love that it's expanding and whatnot. I do miss the camaraderie of this every kind of neighborhood coming into one area, because what the promoters and everybody I think is trying to do is capitalize on the fact that there's so many prides. So it's like you'll have a pride, but then you'll have 16 major parties that happen around it, and it's like, how can you possibly be at all these places at once?
Correct.
Right.
So it's like a love-hate relationship, but the more pride, the more we're out there, the better.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, that was actually one of my first questions in thinking about Pride. Like, there seemed to be a little bit of divide in the LGBTQIA plus community. I've seen so many things online about, cis gay people not supporting transgender or non-binary. Like, how do you feel about that? And do you think that that has actually played some part in the separation of some prides?
That's interesting. I see it all the time. It drives me insane. I don't understand the concept at all. We are all, I'm not the type of person that separates the communities at all. The trans community, the non-binary community, the cis male community, all of those things within the queer community, we're all queer.
Right.
And we're all family. I feel like I have a little bit of every one of those things in me. And do I think that it caused the separation? I think it's possible, but also I think there's probably a big financial gain in doing multiple locations. I'm not sure if that would be the exact reason, but that's one thing that I just can't get behind. I don't understand how people can possibly not support their brothers and sisters, their theys and thems, whatever it is, when, honey, we're all going through the same shit.
Exactly.
If the gay community does not understand at this point that even though, right now it's the drag community and the trans community that's being attacked, if they don't think that they're coming for them next, they're foolish.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
What is your thought on brands that like pride wash? Because you just mentioned like it's all for like the financial gain when you like split up all the opportunities.
Yes. So another love-hate thing. So for one, the positive that I see from it is these companies that we have been fighting for, fighting a long time for our recognition and our flowers per se, are finally giving it to us. But I do see that it is being done in a way that seems a little bit like queer baiting. But as someone who is an artist, a musician who wants to be taken seriously in the mainstream and is kind of on their way to getting that recognition, it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
And it's like, I do go out of my way to work with queer-owned brands as much as I possibly can. But an artist like me who's independent right now, if Nike comes to me and says, you know what, for Pride, we want to give you $10,000 and fly you to Florida and have you be the, do you think I'm going to say no to that? I have no other option. You know what I mean?
Hello.
What you
have
should
to.
say is $10,000 question mark. Up that.
Yeah.
We had a friend, a personal friend,
Yeah.
who was an independent artist, and they caught a lot of flack from people that they were like, "You're a sellout. How could you?" And he was like,
Listen,
"Bitch, I need to pay my
Yeah.
rent."
It's like, are you gonna
We
sell?
have-
Are you gonna sell me something to pay my rent?
Right, you know, and
Exactly. And
It's
you know, I always
just-
find it interesting that when people support artists, but then they come back and say, I don't like what you're doing, XYZ, you have to understand the reason why you support me in the first place is because of my art. My art is not
Right.
free. It
Right.
is very,
Mhm.
very expensive. The clothes, the music, the producers, the studio time, the travel, what it does to your mental health. There's so many things. So, you know, if we can accept whatever we want to accept. That's not for anyone else to dictate.
So that's why we're gonna ask for more than $10,000.
We're gonna start at 50
Hell, no, we
Yeah.
can go
and
even
work our
up,
way up.
more up from there.
Yeah, and I think it really kind of boils down to, you know, kind of going back to the separation. We've seen it for a long time, including in the clubs. You know, when you would go to what's known as like a twink club, and then people who may have been of a different size were not allowed there, and then XYZ. And I'm just like, how are we gonna like fight this in our own community if we can't even be under the same roof and listen to the same different version of Britney Spears in the roof? And I don't understand why we can't do that.
We're all listening to the same music. It's all, and most of the times it's the same venue and it's just a different night of the week.
That is a really important statement. It's literally the same.
It's the same building. You're in the physical same place. There's some things that I don't think will ever be explained on this planet.
Yeah.
But all we can do is go out of our way to cross those lines and cross those borders. I do it all the time. You know, places like that you would never expect me to be. I'm always there.
I love that.
And
So
I think it's important.
Jarrell, you brought up Britney Spears, which I'm so glad that you did.
I did.
So let's talk about Toxic.
Yeah.
Your new release. What was the inspiration, the reasoning behind doing Britney's iconic Toxic and your version of it?
Yes. So it was never on my radar in a million years. And I'm not sure why. But so my friend Brendan Rogers, who's like this big YouTuber, he does all this like character work. He has this new series called Bryce. And Bryce is the backstory of his most famous character, the one that I fell in love with, 10 years ago. And it takes place in the 80s. And so I'm in this series. My character's name is Delorio. I'm like the office asshole. And definitely a villain. And so one day I was in the gym and he called me and was just like, hey, I'm going to make a very specific request. We have no time at all, but you're the only person on earth that think could pull it off. And I was like, what? And he's like, I need you to cover Britney Spears' Toxic. But not only do I need it to be an 80s cover, but it can't be like the 80s, like, kind of the 80s flair. He's like, I need it to exist in the 1980s. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay. So I took a week. I studied the hell out of the 80s. I wanted to get all those little nuances. I watched a lot of weird 80s infomercials, a lot of like the kind where they would do the telethons that they're selling CDs and soundtracks. And they're like, it's all these corny men that are doing the worst.
The worst.
and that's where I got, like, I wanted to make sure that the accent was right. I wanted to obviously be an ONICKS song, but I wanted to be like, instead of saying dangerous, it's like dangerous. It's like this, this extra 80s moment. Like, you have no idea.
Were you with us in the 80s?
No, I'm a 90s.
Oh, okay.
90s baby.
I love that. When we were listening to it a few times today, like, honestly, and I was just like, this sounds like the 80s, and it feels really, I honestly
I could totally hear it in like
Stranger Things. They should
giving
put
me
it
like
Stranger Things,
Sweet Dreams like vibes.
Oh, yes.
It's giving like Nightmare on Elm Street. I could totally hear it in something like that. You give me ooky spooky, and I live for it.
People do live, yeah.
Would you ever consider doing like a Halloween themed like record? You know how like Kim has.
Adam said Kim like this. That's his friend.
Oh, Kim
Petra. He said like Kim.
I'm pretty sure they know who.
Like, Kim.
Yeah.
No, they
At
said
this point, would I consider it? The answer is yes, and that's all I'll say about it.
Oh,
Okay, so you
wink,
have
wink.
something coming.
Because like my character as an artist, like I'm not, I don't follow trends or do anything like that. I really wanted to make sure that Onyx was, there was an exact brand there, and my brand is a supervillain.
Yeah.
That's what like
Ooh.
my music is, and my vibe and my videos and everything. It's about a supervillain taking over the world.
I love it.
Maleficent.
And there's a bunch of videos that are going to come out, and I'm kind of creating this like Onyx verse, right, where there's characters, there's a timeline, what were the events that led up to my video for No Problems, which is the last video I wrote I did, which was basically the other artists and I robbed a family in their mansion. And so it's a story from like the bottom up of this supervillain that is trying to take over the world. So Halloween is the most villain of holidays. So I think if I didn't dabble properly, I think that would be a mistake.
Are you dabbling?
Brayden is trying to get it out of you.
I'm a
But Onyx, don't play with it.
Not confirm nor deny.
If I
cannot get them to admit it.
If I were to do a Halloween EP, let me tell you, it'd be like nothing you've ever heard in your life.
Okay,
Well,
so you're
I'm
doing
hoping-
it.
Brayden think he is Barbara Walters trying to get it out of you.
I'm sitting here like,
But you were doing a really good job. That PR training, you're like, if I was to, I don't know. I think it would be amazing, and I would love to hear what artists you would have on there with you. So that's all.
Okay.
All right, moving the subject. Ashley has the next one. We'll move the subject.
Well, I just wanted to know, like, what were your musical inspirations? Like, I'm getting like 80s vibes, like in the best way from you. Is like it's a lot of 80s, or it's just what's your genre that like really inspired you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The 80s vibe, visually, especially, like I wear like oversized suiting. It's like my hair, everything is super 80s. That was just in my DNA, apparently.
Yeah.
The music I listened to, the music that I was inspired by originally when I was, first starting. For one, obviously Britney Spears, Rihanna, all those artists. And that was kind of when, back in the day, when I was just like a hyper pop artist, like everything was bubblegum pop. Then I went through a dark period. There was drugs, there was management that screwed me, the whole, the artist story. And during that time is when I actually found Lana Del Rey. And her music is, I mean, if you really, really study her lyrics and what she does, even if you're not into sad girl music, it's actually brilliant.
She's a great writer.
I love The Body Electric. It's one of my favorite ones.
Oh, it's so good.
That's
Cherry and Born to Die. Like it really
Born to Die is really good
to have these dark undertones, but also to make sure that my lyrics tell a story and that they're clever. It's not just like I'm going to, like, I love the music where it's like I'm going to the club and we're gonna have a good time. Let's drink and party and celebrate. That's all great, and that's all great music, and it exists and it needs to exist. But that's just not what makes me tick. Everyone always is like, you make your music for your fans and whatnot. I make my music for me. I make music that I would fucking rock to. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how I make my music, and that's why it resonates with my fans, because I made sure that like this is something that I would listen to.
Are there ever moments where you put on your own music and just rock out to it?
I actually have this really interesting process especially when I'm making a new song, or in this case, an EP that's coming out in a couple months.
Is it on Halloween?
Shut up.
This is I've been public about this. I've been public about this. My first EP is called Diamonds. It is the story of a supervillain and their obsession with diamonds and all things of that sort.
Ooh.
And so this is going to come out in a couple months, but during that process, I actually will only listen to my own music.
Oh,
okay.
So when I write music, like if I need a break from whatever song I'm working on in that moment, I'll only listen to my past music.
I love that.
It keeps me in my own sonic world, rather than accidentally influencing myself into. I never want to copy. I want it to just be authentically who I am. And so sometimes I go back and study my own work to figure out, okay, how do I take this and multiply it by 1,000?
I love that.
That's really good, because like a lot of artists hate listening to themselves.
Yeah. And they don't make music for themselves. And it's like, you have to love it. I love what you said, Onyx, about you make art for yourself, because artists should always love what they're doing to, be able to not just do it for a check, I should say. We kind of talked a little bit earlier where you kind of mentioned, about some of the obstacles you've been through. And you talked about management, and then you talked about drugs. So can you talk to us about what those obstacles were, if you feel comfortable, and let us know where you found yourself back on the positive road again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of my recovery, as an addict and all those things was I promised myself, especially as, I come into this more public role in my life, that I was always going to be transparent. That's really important to me, because when I was going through the shit, I had no one to look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was so isolating and so dark, and why it lasted so long. So when I was 21, I took on management. I was traveling the country. My career was going great. My music was a lot different than it is now, but I was doing well, and it attracted this management firm who I thought was legitimate. Little did I know they really were not. They brought somebody into my life who was a drug dealer. And this person I ended up dating, and they actually ended up essentially facilitating the relationship. And so what ended up happening is I ended up doing, hard drugs for almost 2 years of my life. And luckily, I got out of it. I was able to tell my parents. I had to take a lot of time away from music, because I didn't trust myself to do it again, because it was just like, I was doing so well. And it was like in 1 second, the entire thing melted away. And, a lot of people say, do you regret that? If you go back, would you have not done the drugs? Would you have not, experienced these terrible things? The answer is no. I would absolutely never take that back. I would not be who I am today without those things. Yeah. And those things made me, oh my gosh, I needed to experience some of those things in order to write from this place of truth that I write from now.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. Did that experience influence your music artistry currently? Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah. I always kind of had this this villain vibe, aesthetically and all that kind of stuff. But this, I would say, as soon as I kind of got clean, and then a few years later, initially I went into fashion. I went into retail. I was like, let me find the job that anybody can get. And then I worked all the way up into eventually working for Prada. So I kind of made it to the top. And then one day I just snapped, and I was like, what am I doing? I know why I'm on this earth, and I'm on this earth for music. And I really just, I had to take a couple of years and write music about my past to just get it off my chest. I came out with the song Belong to Me. I came out with the song Half to Death and High, and all these things where I'm talking about my struggles. And then I made this song Illuminati, and that friend Brandon, I showed him one night. We were having a little kiki at my place, and he called me a couple months later, and he was just like, hey, that song that you don't want to release, Illuminati, I want to use it in one of my series. And I was like, no, I'm not releasing this. This is not what I'm about. And it's about it's about wanting all these things in the world, Bugattis and diamonds and boats with diamonds, all these crazy things. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I did it. The song blew up. It's almost at 3 million streams on Spotify. Nice. And it completely changed the course of everything. I realized that in manifesting the things that I want, I'm starting to get them.
Right.
Yeah.
And did the Illuminati reach out to you? Are you part of the Illuminati?
If I was, I wouldn't be able to tell you anyways. Just
right.
The only reason I'm asking is because I want an in. If you could
give him a recommendation.
You could refer me to the Illuminati.
So what's
would
I?
Do I have a referral code?
Yeah,
that's what we want.
Can I get a promo code?
Well, right. They don't do human sacrifices anymore. It's 2023.
Oh, lame.
Right. That's so last century.
Everything's digital, honey. We have cryptocurrency.
Just
oh my god, yeah. So what will happen is Braden will scan some stupid QR code, and then
I don't even know how to do that.
That's how they'll access you, and
it's all AI.
All your nudes are out, bit.
No nudes.
You do. I got some.
I've seen your grinder unlocked.
Oh, girl. Anyway,
I'm excited to leak my own nudes, honey.
Hello.
Okay.
Let's go.
That's how you make that money.
If you like it, I love it.
That is definitely something a lot of artists are like, let me just put all my stuff out there right
Take
now.
Take it, honey. Because I'm a human. I got the parts.
You got the goods.
I love it.
Because I'm bionic.
So let's ask a messy question.
Messy.
Yes, we have a podcast mess.
Okay.
So who would you say out of the East and West Coast has the best music scene?
Oh,
Okay, well, here is my take on that. I've been asked this many times. It's not as cut and dry. I think that if you are a musician, I think that the place that I found the best success and the most resources is Los Angeles.
100.
But I like the music scene of New York better.
Yeah.
Why?
I like what artists make on the West Coast and bring to New York.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's something about New York where, the last couple times I performed there, it's like most of the people in New York, especially in the queer community, you live in a little box that you pay a shit ton of money for. You get pushed around every day, but when you go out, you show up and you show out for other artists. And that's something, the people of Los Angeles are very spoiled. We're surrounded by every celebrity on earth. They just pop into your random nightclub on a Tuesday. And so it's like if you're not, Grammy nominated or something like that, people get really just like blase about it. And it's like they're just expecting it. But you go to like New York, Miami, I don't see anywhere outside of Los Angeles.
Right.
It's just like it's like you start to gather these real hardcore fans. And they just appreciate the fact that it was a good fucking song you did. You looked fucking good. You've got the brand, and they're just like vibing with it. Here, it's like, what can you do for me? What are your credentials?
Right. Grammys have you on?
That's
I
don't.
Oh, LA.
Oh.
Yeah, we had a glimpse, a taste of it.
Which time?
One of the times we were in LA.
Anytime we go to LA.
I mean, I can say names, but I probably should.
No.
Unless you're gonna release an EP
We're
on
not
Halloween.
Oh,
You shouldn't say anything.
So, Onyx, I actually have another follow-up question. Has Brittany said anything?
No,
have you heard anything from her camp at all?
No, I have not.
Well, she's not doing well.
Not.
So
I feel I feel as though,
my goodness.
based on some placements that we have on some playlists and some people that we've been talking to, I think that this song is gonna have somewhat of an explosion at some point. That's all I'll say. And I feel as though at that point she'll see it. I just don't know what her process is in interacting with people that cover her music.
You don't know? I can tell you her process.
Oh,
Right,
can't you?
Don't say something disrespectful.
Don't say something.
I can see it on the tip of your
What
lips.
did you cover?
Oh, what did I cover?
And what did
I put my duvet in a cover.
He's the worst. But I think that's so important. And Onyx, what I hope in the future is that you and Brittany get to perform this together, because I think
That would be
that would be so badass.
So let's
at LA Pride.
We're going
At
to
LA
Right,
Pride.
good.
I'm coming.
Exactly.
Manifest.
I will be in the front row
that-
waving.
I hope that when and if she hears it, I hope she understands like how much like love and care went into the song. Like, for one, you wouldn't think this just because we've heard the song a billion times, but Toxic as a song itself is very complex. It changes key almost 3 times. It's like near impossible to create a track that is from a different time period that replicates the structure of Toxic. So we really had to like go in on this song. Like, so I just hope that she would recognize some of those things. And it's just badass.
I think so too.
We're so excited to see where your version of Toxic like takes you, takes your fans,
and takes Pride the
listeners.
podcast.
Definitely,
We'll be on the coattails.
We will be riding it.
Come on, Eddie. All straight to the Halloween EP.
Yeah.
Right there. There it is.
That is that. You heard it here.
I knew it was coming.
You heard it here first.
We have a
Breaking news.
A Pride the podcast exclusive that we cannot.
I thought you were gonna say we have a caller on the line. I'm like,
oh yeah, it's Britney Spears.
We have a surprise for you.
Thank you so much. That's Brittany.
That's your Britney voice.
That's for Paris.
Yeah,
That's your Britney
it's the fake Paris. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it and get back to you. But Onyx, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Please let us know where, and our listeners know where they can find you online, on social media, and where they can stream all of your music. I know that's Spotify, but let them know where they can stream everything.
Yes. So if you look up ONICKS on all streaming platforms, literally on planet Earth, you can find me. And then all my socials are at I am Onyx.
Nice.
Wonderful.
This was so much fun.
It was. Please come back with us and do like a whole hot topics with us and talk
because we love to talk shit.
We love to talk shit. So
when we're in LA, we'll
Yes.
And when you're in New York, hit us up.
Please.
We're trying to go to LA Pride, so
yes.
Come. Yeah, we'll hang out.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I'm an awful lot of fun.
I can tell.
I do.
we would get in a lot of
it's a
trouble.
moment.
Like we would get in trouble, but you would be the one to pull me back and be like, "Hey, don't do that." And I'd be like, "But what?" And you're like, "Nah."
Hey,
I love
Put that down.
Put it down. Put him down.
Put him down.
Thank you, Onyx. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait till the next Geeky.
Of course.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Onyx.
Bye.